I think it's a wonderful story to get us to our next speaker, because indeed, if it's a story of resilience, there's a question of how you build that resilience, right, in your day-to-day routine. So our next speaker, Tanja Lee from Evolution Agents, will tell us the story of how she went from becoming a multi-award winning industry influencer from the basis of being a disappointed consumer. She's turned into a real influencer in our industry from a vision of positively redefining the real estate experience for all involved. And that speaks a lot to the products that some of these people in the room are building. She's an NLP practitioner and a certified trainer. She's a Neuro Change solutions consultant that teaches leaders and teams how to de-stress, how to achieve success, how to amplify influence. She uses Neuroscience of Change to accelerate AI adoption. I would like you to join your hands to welcome Chief Energy Officer Tanja Lee.
How you doing? Big day? How's your brain? Cool. Where's Tom? Is he gone out of the room? I just wanted to acknowledge Tom for the way he held space for Kylie sharing her story. And I also wanted to take this opportunity just to acknowledge you, because to innovate is to stand out in a big, scary future with no guarantee and back a belief. And so I'm sure that many of you in the room have had similar experiences, or those dark nights of the soul and sleepless nights that people don't see. So I just want to, on behalf of all the clients you serve and all the communities that benefit from your innovations, just begin by acknowledging you for whatever it is that you've been through, are going through, and will go through to innovate the transformation of our industry. Please give yourselves and one another a really big, warm welcome, round of applause. So I'm here to share the neuroscience of change, to give you access to accelerate the adoption of your AI. Who'd be open to that? Who wants people to actually embrace what you're innovating? Yes? And I stand at the intersection between technology and biology. I'm a curious cat, so I want to begin by asking a question. Who here, by a show of hands, truly believes that the property technology that you've built or are building, if adopted and implemented, would significantly change and improve the quality of your clients' lives? Just a show of hands. Okay, great. I would hope so. Thanks for participating. Who here also, by a show of hands, despite all of your best efforts to communicate and engage and get people to adopt your technology, are a little perplexed and even frustrated at the lack of adoption at times? Show of hands, if you're honest. Thank you for your honesty, and would love a breakthrough in that. Great. Well, that's what I'm here for. I invite you to consider that the resistance to your innovations and the resistance to change isn't logical, it's biological. So let's just take that in for a little bit. For the past 10 years, I've been traveling around Australia and New Zealand and coaching thousands of real estate and property professionals on how to grow themselves and their business. And to give this context, I'm not a real estate agent. I'm simply an everyday consumer who back in 2014 was really underwhelmed with the process of listing and selling my family home. And I didn't want to become another dissatisfied statistic that complained about agents at barbecues. I actually, there's some laughter of recognition there. I wanted to be part of the solution and a positive contribution. And so at the time, I was a peak performance coach for entrepreneurs in multiple industries. And I was trying to find a niche that I could go an inch deep and a mile wide. And I thought, wow, I'm an old-fashioned customer service kind of gal. I'm like, wow, maybe this industry is somewhere that I can funnel my 35 years experience working across the corporate, private, retail, government sectors, helping businesses grow, in some cases by up to 210%. And over that time, I've done 10 years, February this year, so I feel like I'm out of rookie phase. I've come to learn a lot. And I've come to learn 3 secrets that if you learn and apply will significantly enable your clients or potential clients to adopt your innovations, because I know your innovations are going to significantly change their lives, and that's why I'm here. So I invite you, secret number one is to consider this is not a strategy issue, it's a state of being issue. What do I mean by state of being? A state of being in the world of neuroscience, said in another way, is your personality, which is made up of three things: how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So I'm going to use those two terms, state of being and personality, interchangeably, but essentially it's how we think, how we act, and how we feel. Now, think about it. There are two real estates of being typically for people in our industry. You've got the person who is the state of creation, innovation, and growth. Here's how they think. They're empowered, they're positive, they're unlimited in their thinking. They see opportunity and possibility everywhere. Who knows those people? They're the early adopters. And they have a personality of adoption. They see the potential in what you're creating and they embrace it pretty quickly. And then there's the flip side. There is the personality of stress and survival, that state of being. These people, and I say this without criticism, it's just observation, are disempowered, negative, and limited in their thinking. Anyone met anyone like that? And their personality is one of avoidance. So no matter how good your technology is, they're not in the state of being of adoption. Who can see that even just by this chart? So let's go meta for a moment and have a look at what is the state of being or the personality of our industry. So this is a snapshot of some of the key findings from 4 major reports in our industry, thanks to Jet Xavier, Sarah Bell, and the Revive document. Of course, numerous MRI reports, thanks to Kylie Davis and the team at MRI. Just take a look at some of these stats. Now, that would have changed, even more because some of the reports are dated, but it gives us a pretty good snapshot. Have a look at some of these key findings. We are an industry in stress and survival, getting on the phone and knocking on the doors of communities in stress and survival with a housing crisis. And the most coherent and conscious and person with the highest level of consciousness and coherence, meaning relaxed in the heart and awake in the brain, is the most influential. And for folks like me, vendors like me, we can feel when real estate agents are focusing on their agenda to get their listing to pay for the car lease that they can't afford. We can feel where you're coming from or where agents are coming from. So if we distill this down even further, some of the findings I've found out is real estate leaders typically have only around 23% have had any kind of real estate leadership or leadership training. They are predominantly on the tools, navigating, working both in the business and on the business. They're the primary breadwinner for the business and they don't know how to hold their people accountable, and they'd rather be liked than lead. So there's a lot of opportunity on the table that is just sitting there not being cultivated. And that's a really hard gig. Sales agents are in a competitive industry where every day they get knocked back and told no. And if you don't have a constitution of courage, you're going to find it really hard to rise resilient in times of change and challenge. And property managers, well, don't get me started on these beloved people. These are the big-hearted crew in our industry who 63% of them are struggling, dealing with the aggression and abuse that's coming down the phone of stressed out rental providers and renters and people that can't afford to make their home compliant. My phone is going off right now with clients whose teams are freaking out and in the fear of fines, especially in Victoria. Who understands what I'm talking about here? So what does this actually mean? Well, 72% struggle to switch off. 63%, particularly in property management, are really struggling dealing with the aggression and abuse of people. And 51% are struggling with the mental load and the feeling like they can't switch off. So what does this mean? Well, living in stress is living and survival. And when we are in stress and survival, it's not a time for adoption. It's not a time for innovation. It's not a time for growth. It is a time for three things. All of our energy, when I say our, I'm speaking about your clients. We share the same clients, by the way. All of our energy when we're in these states goes towards fighting, running, or hiding, or more in the world of real estate and property, attacking and defending when our leader is holding us accountable for the lack of KPI performance, avoiding responsibility and blaming all the external reasons why I'm not performing, the market, the weather, compliance, competition, and procrastinating. So just not busy, being busy, not doing what I need to do. Who understands? Who can relate to this for yourself, by the way? Yeah, so this is what it is to be human, and 80% of us are in this state 80% of the time, and we think it's normal. And then we have a couple of double espressos. So what's actually going on in our body? Well, in neuroscience is typically the study of how our brain and nervous system influence the way we think, the way we act, and the way we feel, and the way we interact or react with our environment. That's really what it is. What this means is our heart is in a state of incoherence. It's beating irregularly. And our brain is incoherent, meaning it's firing in insequential sequence patterns and combinations, which means we can't think clearly. We can't problem solve effectively. We can't communicate clearly. We're certainly not in a state of innovation and growth. We're in a state of survival, and tech is like the saber-toothed tiger. We don't understand it. It's intimidating. It's unfamiliar, and I'm scared. Who gets what I'm saying? So let's take a look deeper in the brains of your prospects and see what's actually going on. This is the personality of avoidance. This is how they think, how they act, and how they feel. And these are real life comments that I've heard clients say. This AI stuff is too complicated. I'll never understand it. I don't have time to learn another system. If I just stick to what I know, I'll be safe. Change always makes things harder. How will this integrate with other systems? We've heard a lot of that. Kylie's got 12 in her business. They're just too many to get across. It's too overwhelming. It's like in their brains, there's too many tabs open and the Mac color wheel of death is spinning, and it's like, I can't take it anymore. I'm confused. I can't keep up with these changes. The robots are coming for my job. We've heard that one before. So if that's the way they think, this is how they act. Well, I am indecisive and I delay committing. I tell you I need more time or I'll come back to you. Has anyone ever heard that one? Yes, I get it. I put off learning new tools and avoid tech updates because I don't have the time. I may complain or vent about change in meetings, or on the flip side, and I'll be suffering in silence and feeling overwhelmed. I over-rely on manual process because it works. I know it and I'm fast at it. I've been doing it a long time. I avoid asking for help for fear of looking incapable. I miss opportunities to innovate or streamline tasks. And I sometimes subscribe to AI, but I don't use it fully, and then I delete the subscription. And this, my friends, is one of the biggest things I see, because I get to travel around and go under the hood of many agencies and franchise brands and have a look at their efficiencies and effectiveness. And on average, teams are using tech around 40 to 50% of the time. So they adopt it to save time and efficiency. They're only using it less than half of the time. And when eventually leaders are looking at their profit and loss statements, what do you think one of the first expense items to go is? Subscriptions. And it's like, I see a lot of heads of growth for prop tech companies doing well getting the business, but it's like putting business in a bucket with holes in it because the business is leaving the next month. And I'm not okay with that as a coach in the industry, because I know what you're developing radically changes our clients' lives. Because as a coach, I'm also dealing with the real life health ramifications, substance abuse, levels of stress. Men in this industry 4 times more likely to kill themselves than any other industry because they suffer in silence. And then all the business that's on the table as a result. So how does the personality, your clients who aren't adopting, feel? overwhelmed, confused, resistant, frustrated, insecure, annoyed, and exhausted. And so when they're in these states, they have this thinking, feeling, feeling loop going on. And when your sales team are on the phone doing demos at expos, at ARIC, at the exhibition tables, talking to prospects, what you're doing is actually talking to a neurological, biological conditioning person that's just like, you're a threat, this is dangerous, unfamiliar, I don't get it. And they'll be like, I'll think about it. The communication, despite all the best efforts, is ineffective sometimes. Who can see that? This is what's going on inside their bodies and brains. And so when emotion is high, intelligence is low. And those feelings and emotions that I talked about in their state of being, we're actually producing chemicals, we're producing hormones. And it may be the most intelligent thing for people to adopt your technology, but they're not adopting it because they're not in the right state of being. They're in stress and survival, and they're in self-preservation mode, and your beautiful innovations are the saber-toothed tiger to their mind. So let's flip the script at the personality of someone that is a person of adoption. These people are in states of creation, innovation, and growth. They're in flow, they're in the zone, they're deeply present. They are not worried about what happened last week, and they're certainly not worried about what's going to happen in 2029. They're right here, right now, focusing on what matters. So as a result, they're innovating in the moment, highly intuitive because they've got heart coherence, and they see growth and opportunity everywhere. Why? Because they're relaxed in the heart and awake in the brain. They're not in sympathetic dominance. They're not in fight, flight, freeze. They're in homeostasis. They're in balance and order. There's nothing at threat. So the clients that are in stress, they have what's called a convergent focus. They're over-analyzing and they're stressing and worrying. But these people, these are in divergent focus. They're looking at opportunity everywhere. So let's take a look at their psychology. I love how much, this is the kind of clients that are easy to convert. I love how much time PropTech saves me and my team. I use AI every day. Every tool I learn, I value, and it helps me and my team stay ahead. I don't need to know it all. I just need to be willing to give it a try. Innovation is an ally, not a threat. I love that these tools give me a competitive advantage, and we're streamlining our systems and building greater efficiency. This is what people are actually telling me who have a mindset of adoption. How do they act? They proactively learn new systems and play with the tech features. They put the adoption of AI as an item on their business plan. They strategically carve out time to go, we got to go hunting and find out what's the best tech for us to invest in. They ask around. They get the intel from their colleagues and respected industry experts. They seek out service providers and book demos. They send their teams to events and courses to learn more and ensure they're adequately trained. They come to great gigs like this. Thanks, Kylie and the crew. Can we give it up for the PropTech crew? PropTech Australia. It's my first one, and my brain is exploding with information. They ask a lot of questions and soak up the information. They track their progress and measure their return on investment. So let's have a look at what state of being these people are in emotionally. And remember, when we're producing emotions and feelings, we are producing chemicals. No longer am I neurochemically conditioning my body into states of cortisol and adrenaline. Now I've got dopamine and serotonin going on. I am feeling good because I feel confident. I feel inspired and collaborative. And so in summary, there's two real estates of mind. There's the personality of avoidance and the personality of adoption. You can see the difference. The ones in avoidance, as I said, are very self-centric, and they should be. They're in survival mode. They're trying to survive. And so you could have the best script and dialogue. It's just not going to change behavior because they're not hearing you. To their brain, it sounds like blah, 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 blah. So 80% of clients, certainly that I work with over 200 brands 250 brands in the last 10 years. in summary, most people are here. And it's not exclusive to real estate and property. This is what it is to be human in 2025. Who understands? Yeah. So as a curious consumer who wanted to make a difference, I thought, okay, there's no lack of strategy in our industry. I've never worked in an industry that has more training, more tools, more tech, more resources to positively change people's lives. And as I like to say, you know, strategy on top of a disempowered belief system is like icing over a poo pie. You're not going to use it, or you're not going to use it consistently. So I'm like, right, what can I do to really make a difference? So for the past nearly 2 years, I've been flying back and forth from America to learn the neuroscience of change. That's me there, and that's one of my mentors here, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's leading the way in neuroscience teaching and helping people learn how to use their brain and biology to actually make change a conscious practice. Like whenever you want to change, whether it's lose some booty or grow your business, whatever it is, you will actually learn the scientifically proven formula to put in any aspect of your life and business to make change a conscious practice. That is a tool of mastery. So I've been traveling around Australia, back to Perth next week, and then off to beautiful New Zealand to teach the neuroscience of change. And that's my number one focus right now, and my hubby. That's what we devote ourselves to. And so in summary, after secret number one, consider when we live in a state of stress and survival, our neurology and biology blocks innovation, change, and growth. I'd love you just to turn to the person next to you and just have a quick 1 minute share. What did you learn from that? And then I'm going to go to secret number two. Thanks, Juan, for some tunes. Quick share, and we'll come back to secret two.
Every thing.
All right. If you can hear me, say shh. You look so cozy over there, having little powwows. I'd be curious, just yell out, what did you learn from secret one? Who'd be willing to share? What stood out for you? Anyone? So my question is, what stood out for you? What did you learn from secret one? Just yes. Go on, what's your name? G'day, Ron. Give it up for Ron. Go, Ron. Well, that's 80% of the market. Oh, Ron, you should be up here with the clicker, my friend. Yes, you should. We could do this together because you're bang on. That is, Ron, I couldn't have predicted a better segue for secret number two, my friend. Thank you. Please give it up for Ron. That was awesome. Yes, Ron, nice job. Secret number two, despite all of your best intentions and efforts, you might be speaking to the wrong part of their brain. See, people buy into a future memory, not into a spreadsheet. And this is because facts tell, but stories sell. Like who heard themselves in Kylie Dillon's share before, or could relate to some of those pain points and challenges? Yeah, and it takes a vulnerable and courageous person to do something like that. So if you want greater adoption of your innovation, you actually need to have a very simple understanding of which part of the brain to speak to. And so let's deconstruct this. I don't have time to do a big deep dive, but it'll be just enough for you to know. Who here thought you only had one brain? Show of hands. Well, you're about to get amazing return on investment for being at PropTech Forum because you actually have 3. Isn't that awesome? So the first brain is the neocortex. That is the brain that is the thinking brain. It's responsible for learning and remembering. So learning is building new synaptic connections, and remembering is maintaining and sustaining these synaptic connections. Who here, like me, at any point today was a little bit system overwhelmed? Neocortex was getting a lot of information and you were processing and your color wheel of death was going a bit. Show of hands, yeah? Just me? Yeah. So that's because all this information is hitting your neocortex and it kept coming, and you're trying to build new synaptic connections and you don't have time to fire and wire to remember it. And the truth is, if you leave here and have a drink and turn on your phone and get sucked into the abyss of life, you're not going to remember what you heard if you don't review this information within 24 hours. It is also the brain that's responsible for conscious awareness and analytical mind. And it's the part of the brain that connects us to the third dimensional reality or our environment through our 5 senses. So you're using your neocortex right now to listen to me and all the other amazing speakers that we've had today. So it's the thinking brain. Next one is the limbic brain. This is the feeling brain. Its main job is to regulate homeostasis. It's responsible for regulating our autonomic or automatic nervous system that has 2 branches. The sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight, flight, freeze response, which is where most people are in 80% of the time, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest, digest, heal, repair, renew, grow, innovate, create, and change the world. Now, the short-term stress is fine. It's very maladaptive, and we need it for survival, because if you're driving to PropTech Forum and a car runs a red light, you need to mobilize an enormous amount of energy really fast to save your life, right? And then in a few minutes, heart rate goes down, you get back to homeostasis, you're groovy. But chronic stress or long-term stress is when we stay in emergency mode 24/7, and the brain and the body think that we've got 1 foot on the accelerator and 1 foot on the brake all the time. And ironically, that's how a car does a burnout. That's why it's called burnout. That is unsustainable, let alone unfavorable. And it's not a matter of if we're going to burst a pooper valve, it's a matter of when. And you know, I'm here with friends and partners of Rise Initiative and Domain and MRI and Cloud Staff and all of the beautiful people that are bringing the reality of the stress of our industry to the forefront. We have a duty of care. And if you want to grow your business, you can't grow in a state of stress and growth, stress and survival, because it's not the time. It's a time to fight, run, or hide. So this is all about regulating our nervous system. And then we have the big kahuna, the cerebellum, and this is our microprocessor. It's the center of our implicit memory, which means you know how you do what you do, you just don't know how you know how to do what you do. It's become a habit, it's a skill, it's our automatic emotional reactions, hardwired attitudes and beliefs. And about 95% of who we are as an identity is formulated in our cerebellum as a program. You'll know what that word means by the time we're 35. This is kind of who we are. So when your sales team are out at expos and ARIC and Kickstarts and they come to your desk with your mini golf and the hoops and the squidgies and the mints and all the things to seduce engagement, they're talking to 5% of the brain, expecting it to do the heavy lifting of 95% of the brain, and we're missing the part of the brain that makes decisions and the part of the brain that is looking for your answer to the biggest question it's asking, which is why? Why your PropTech? And it's not features and benefits. It's why. It's the vision, Ron. What is it going to do for me in my life? So don't take my word for it. Let's speak to an expert. Who's familiar with Simon Sinek? International marketing expert. Great. So this is a 5-minute, 13-second clip from his 18-minute TED Talk This is one of the top 10 ranking TED Talks globally. It's had well over 55 million views, and it's called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. And just with this in mind, have a listen to this, and he's going to teach you his methodology of the Golden Circle. Then we'll take a couple of shares, complete Secret 2, and get into Secret 3. We'll take it over to Simon Sinek.
I call it the Golden Circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean, what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done. That's how most sales is done. And that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do. We say how we're different or how we better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You ready to buy a computer from me? All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do?
Something? Yeah. What did you learn? What stood out? Start with why. Actually, Simon's written a book called Start With Why. He's written a number of books, numerous times best-selling author, but Start With Why is one of them, and Great Leaders Eat Last is another. So here's a quick distillation of it. What do you do? Every organization on the planet, think about you. What do you do? What do you actually do? What's the services and products you sell? So I speak at events, I run training programs and workshops, I do coaching, and I'm about to launch a podcast so we can tell the amazing stories of what this industry is doing to make a difference to the industry and community. And I can't wait to get you guys on and tell the story of what's happening here. How do you do it? Some organizations know how they do what they do. These are the things that make them special. You must know what your secret sauce is and make sure you don't sound like everybody else. So at the Evolution Agents, we teach real estate leaders and teams how to de-stress, achieve success, and amplify their influence in the least amount of time using the proven concepts of neuroscience. It's very specific and it's very unique, and there's not a lot of people doing it, which means we can become a specialist and not be a generalist. And then, of course, why? And remember, as Simon said, people buy why you do, not what you do. Why do we do what we do? We're here to positively redefine the real estate experience for all involved and build a bridge between industry and community, because I think it's a pretty big deal listing and selling your home, and it should be an amazing experience. And I think our people need to not fall off the perch as a result. So in summary, consider you're not selling prop tech, you're selling transformation. The real change isn't digital, it's neurological. So just turn to the person next to you. You got 1 minute to quickly share. What did you get from Secret 2? Thanks, Juan.
Here we go. It might be crazy what I'm about to say. Switch my TV. Take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that can go to space. Like I don't care about the air. Because I'm alone if you feel if you feel happiness is true. But happiness is you. If you feel like that's what you want. Hey. Take your bad news, talk if it matters. Hey, well, give it all you got and don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, you'll be just fine. You don't waste your time. Because that's you
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So I'd love to hear someone's reflection. What did you learn from Secret 2? Who'd be willing just to shout it out? What'd you get? What'd you learn? What stood out? Our brains don't have language. And, our brains, our amygdala is hardwired to keep us alive. And it's just looking for threat, 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 threat. And so sharing your innovative products and services and talking about features and benefits is interesting. It's just not going to drive behavior. You need to be able to speak in a language that helps them see a future, like Ron said, pain-free. That's selling transformation. So secret number 3, I truly believe that the prop tech companies of influence will be the ones who can articulate their value in a way that activates a behavior change. Who gets that? Oh, I love that. Thank you. He said beautiful. Oh, Ron, you're my BFF over there. Dude, come on, it's you and me. Rent a champion. No, just kidding. Thank you, Ron. I love you. Beautiful. Except that I love that. So you need to activate the limbic brain to drive behavior. And there is a formula for this. I've only got 45 minutes, so I can only give you a taste. But here's what you need to do. And Ron just, he said it before. You got to future pace. You need to invite your prospects to imagine. When you say imagine a world, property manager, where you can save 15 hours a week using our technology. Why imagine? Well, that's the limbic brain. The limbic brain starts to imagine that reality of what my day, what my world, my experience looks like with I can see what I can do with 15 hours a week. I can actually do some of the things that I love and maybe get more work done. Then you've got to create some contrast. You want to preface the current reality. Imagine not feeling overwhelmed by all the work you've got on and actually going home on time, being present with your kids and not cracking the guilt whip because you weren't there for soccer training. And imagine having the energy to listen to their stories after school and read them a story and tuck them into bed. And imagine not having to open up your laptop and smash out 75 emails just to get ahead the next day because your inbox is going to be full. And they're imagining that because that's what they do and they don't get paid for it. And then you set a challenge. Imagine what you could achieve in the next 90 days if that was your reality. And then you pause and you let them think about it. Why? Because when they're imagining that new reality, they are neurochemically conditioning their body to an entire new experience. And neurochemically, they're no longer in that moment with you. You're no longer the saber-toothed tiger. You're like, oh, angel. They are not producing cortisol and adrenaline in your presence. They're producing dopamine and serotonin. You are literally giving them a taste of destiny. And you haven't pitched anything. Did you get that? And then you say, can I share with you, sadhana, how we can make that happen? Do you think they're going to be open to hearing how they can make that happen? And this is not manipulation. It is mastery of understanding how to solve the problems of your consumers. So there is an architecture to a compelling value proposition. And, I'm very passionate about this because I've traveled to a lot of industry events and I've seen folks like you spend a lot of money in sponsorship and expos, and they end up often, not always, but great PR exercises and very expensive attempts at lead gen. Who understands? and actual conversions. Yeah, and I've been thinking about this and working behind the scenes on this for a couple of years. I mean it, because as a coach, I want your stuff adopted, because I know my clients can go home earlier, get to bed earlier, not be stressing about their businesses or having exorbitant amounts of substance abuse and not loving life as a result. So in addition to knowing which part of the brain you got to talk to, you also must clearly articulate these three things. How does your gadget widget thing help me as a business owner make more money or save money, save time, which equals money, or build greater connection with my clients? That's the architecture of value proposition. Too many brands are talking about the brand and the technology and the facts and figures and the features and benefits, and you're not talking in a language that I can see and feel would make a real difference to my bank balance, my experience, or my connectivity with clients. And there's an architecture for this. Just quickly before I wrap up, here's a case study of a beloved client who's also become a change agent, meaning that she's behind our desire to teach our industry the neuroscience of change and get everyone out of a state of stress and survival and in a state of innovation and growth. Kelly is the head of growth for Inspection Express. I've had the privilege and pleasure of coaching this team for the last 2 years. And Kelly says it's easy in sales to get caught up in the chase of targets and doing deals. Working with Tanja and her methodology enabled us to get back to our why. They were doing what many of us do in survival and focus on numbers. Crunch the numbers, get the leads, get the demos. She won't mind me saying this because she was there with her team. And her team was stressed and they weren't coherent on the phone. And we can feel where you're coming from. So I started coaching them in 2023, and this is what's happened. And I promise you that result is not just because of the work we've done. It's a great product and they do a great job and they work really hard, but the work works. So in summary of secret 3, rather than presenting your features and benefits, articulate your value and eliminate their pain and speak to the part of the brain that's going to drive behavior. And before I hand over to Fuku, I have one invitation, and that is I have a dream. And this is a dream that I've shared with Kylie recently at an awards when she invited me to speak. And that is to support you to accelerate the adoption of your AI so you can be the contribution to your communities and actually make the difference and liberate their time so they can play with their kids and go fishing or, join this crew and change the affordable housing current reality. And so I've been working behind the scenes, and I spoke to Kyle and I said, would it be okay if we, on behalf of PropTech Australia and myself, shared, if you are interested in what I just shared and you'd like to learn more, I'm not pitching anything right now, I'm not selling anything, I'm just curious. If this information resonated with you and you think, well, we need to learn a bit more, then I just invite you to scan that code. I'm not going to spam you. It's just an opportunity to get your name and email. And if there's enough interest, I will put a training together in partnership with PropTech Australia. I have Kylie's permission to do this, to actually say, hey, here's what's possible, to go into greater detail so you can walk away with your own unique value proposition. Because I truly believe the future of our industry will flourish when we combine AI with EQ, and I'd love the opportunity to collaborate with you. Thank you so much for listening. I wish you all the very best, and go forth and innovate.